Give me some broader take, though, on the whole career of Nisqy, because obviously in the years since you've had him, he's only gone on to get better and better. Like I always say, like, here's the thing, mate, I'll be totally honest, I'm not a bullshit artist. Like, I never thought he was good on Envy. Like, I'm like the plebs you're describing. I was the same pleb going, the Lyra guy's in Elo hell, look, he has to 1v9 the game. But obviously now, when I look back now, it makes sense why the Lyra guy was doing awesome. Like, Nisqy's made almost every jungler he's played with, like, all-pro or MVP of the league. Like, it's clearly like an insane talent he has actually as a mid laner. So, give me some thoughts. Like I said, to me, he's someone who almost every year looks like he gets better at League of Legends. Like, I mean, people will know it was only a couple of years ago he was a true MVP candidate. I mean, you can even argue maybe in the first split of this year he was an MVP candidate. So, who is Nisqy and what have you thought of his career? It seems like you take a lot of pride in him, right?
Yeah, I mean, I like Nisqy a lot, and I don't want this to appear as like a criticism or like as a I don't know what I say, or like to Nisqy's detriment, right? But to me, Nisqy is not a naturally gifted League of Legends player, right? Like you look at somebody like Caps, you look at somebody like Faker, these guys are like naturally gifted. But to me, Nisqy has got to where he is because of hard work. And like what I would say is one of the conversations that one of the things you could guarantee about Nisqy is Nisqy would put the time in, he would put the effort in, and he would spend hours just working on a single champion. I don't really want this to sound like a criticism or any way like to diminish Nisqy, but to me, Nisqy is one of those players that I don't think is like naturally gifted at League of Legends, right? Like, and when I talk about somebody who's like naturally gifted, you know, the game comes very, very easily to them. You know, you look at somebody like Caps, you look at somebody like Froggen, you look at somebody like Faker. You know, these guys, it's almost as if they're like born to play this game. You know, it just sometimes seems effortless, right? Like for me, Nisqy is one of those players who has gotten to where he is through hard work and through study and through, I think Nisqy's skill is his ability to work really, really hard. And I think this is, one of the reasons why he's been such a good mid laner to play with jungle. Because he's somebody who he will like watch VODs and VODs and VODs and VODs of the game. He'll like, you know, he's not going to try to out mechanic you. He's going to try to outthink you. He's going to try to out-understand you. And, you know, maybe Caps can play 30 champions, right? At like an 8 out of 10 level. But Nisqy is going to make sure he can play 4 to like, let's say 6 champions at a 10 out of 10 level. And he's not going to try to match you and match your 35 champions that you can play at like an 8 out of 10. But on the champions that he's going to work hard on, he's going to make sure that he plays them perfectly. And he's the kind of guy who he will go into solo queue and he will play like 30 games of Gragas mid or like Karma mid or like some other champion that people would find mind-numbingly boring to play. And he's just going to make sure that he has that advantage of you. Okay, the edge he will have on you is that he's going to outwork you and he's going to understand jungle better than you. He's going to understand mid lane roaming better than you. And I think that I think that basically people in League of Legends, fans of League of Legends tend to just look at the individual outplay. You know, when one person like out-reaction somebody else and they do a flashy thing. But that's never what Nisqy is going to do, right? Like the way that Nisqy beat you is he like beat you by 1,000 cuts, you know, 1,000 like tiny slices where his jungler gets an extra jungle camp on this clear, or like because he fogged bot in a certain time window, your AD carry lost 4 minions because they had to back off because they were worried about a dive that was never going to come. And this, I think, is what is misunderstood about Nisqy, right? So people tend to underrate him because of this, but all of these tiny advantages, if you are a proactive jungler, you're going to crush the enemy jungler, right? If he gives you like a 1 camp lead at like 3 minutes or like a 3 camp lead at 6 minutes, the game is over, right? Like if you're a really strong jungler. And I mean, what I would say is that, I would say that this is kind of how fans, I think, misunderstand Nisqy. Because he's like kind of the ultimate facilitator mid. And I would say that, so obviously this year's been a bit of a rough year because obviously, you know, the Spanish and the French fan bases have been going off about, you know, there was a situation at MSI where Nisqy appeared like to be laughing after a game where Elioya was really, really grumpy, right? But the way that I would describe kind of Nisqy is Nisqy, he does that thing inside the game, but outside of the game, he is that guy who you've just had a miserable day, or like his emotional intelligence is really, really high. Like he will. He like if he sees that you're going through a rough patch, he will recognize it immediately. He'll like he'll like hype up your play, right? Like he sees you're feeling miserable today, then you do like some really minor outplay that anyone in any diamond player could do, right? And he'll be like, "Holy shit, you're smurfing today, Oda,"
Right.
or like, "Oh my god, why do I have such an insane juggler on my team?" Or like, things like this. And he'll find a way to like make everyone happy and make everyone laugh and make everyone like really joyful. And I think like his family is he has a good upbringing around him. It's almost he's almost too good a person to be believed. And like this is why when I see people shitting on him, like the thing is that it's really funny because the people that people online tend to shit on are like tend to be the most soft-hearted, kind-hearted, because they don't fight back. They just like sit there and take it. And what I would say about Nisqy is, when I see Spanish fans like shitting on him, I'm just holy shit. You guys don't know what.
No, he's too good for life, apparently. I know.
Yeah, but yeah, what I would say is, I mean, I only know that that's back in Europe. I don't know if he did that in North America or anything, right? But obviously, like Nisqy was somebody that you could build a team around. And what I would say is that, obviously, I assume we're going to talk about the 2018-2019 offseason. But basically, if you'd ask me who on that Splice team was the key that if you wanted to make them your kind of franchise player, that you would build future teams around, who was the person? I would have said Nisqy on that team. And let's be clear, Nisqy was probably the fourth best player mechanically on that team. Maybe third, depends. Like, I mean, obviously Odo was number one, and Kobe was number two, and then like Zergs and Nisqy, you can put them in either order, but it's because of everything he offered inside of the game and outside the game. Like, he would be the type of guy who you would come into scrims and he would be like, "Oh, did you see this? Did you see this thing that happened in LPL yesterday?" Or, "Oh, I was watching this." I don't know, French, I like you league or something, or he would always bring new ideas to the table, and you would never need to give him homework to do. Obviously, he'd appreciate it when you coach him and when you give him feedback, but he was very easy to coach, very good for team and morale, very good, very positive human being, and would sacrifice his own play to make his teammates look good. And yeah, I don't think it's any coincidence that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 junglers he played with have become, either first team All Pro or MVP. 4? I think 4 maybe. Zergsay, Elioya, Blabber, Lyra.
Yeah,
4.
there you go.
Yeah. And he gets very, very little recognition himself.
And to be fair, he also was on the team where Whipple was a role swap, and all the credit just went to Whipple for that. True. Like, he also went to Worlds with him and advanced. No, he's had an insane record with his junglers, mate. Just as a quick aside, I want to just contrast this for people who don't know. But the reason why you're emphasising that he like goes and does his own homework and studies the games, and he'll bring info. It's not like you're telling him go watch that ERL. He comes and brings it to you. It's because actually that's extremely rare for pros. Like, a lot of pros, like, even when they say, like, on my shows, when they come on and they say they watch LCK, they mean on a second monitor, guys, while they're playing the game or watching anime or something. Like, it's actually quite rare that pros do homework like this. Is almost like what a coach does, like you're saying.
To see more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, be a pleb and don't.